Okay, so welcome back. We are here with Jason Feifer and Jen Miller, and I'm excited because they've been married for 13 years.
Yeah.
And I want to dig in because I want to know a little bit about how dating went, how marriage is going, a little inspiration for us. But first, I'd love to know a little bit more about you. Why would I bring you on my podcast?
Sure.
Who are you?
Who are we? Aside from that, we're random people who've been married for 13 years. So, anyway, I'm Jason. I am the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine. I run a number of other businesses that are related to helping entrepreneurs. I travel and talk to corporations, and I have a podcast called Help Wanted. And relevant to this conversation is that before I met Jen, I was in a relationship for 9 years. So I had a long dating chunk and then got dumped out into the dating scene for the very first time in my entire life when I moved to New York.
No PTSD
shortly, shortly thereafter, actually met Jen. So anyway, that's me.
Yep, and I'm Jen. I am a journalist. I write for the New York Times, the Washington Post. I write books. And I was also in a very long relationship before I met Jason. I was in a relationship for 8 years.
Plot twist.
Actually, yes. Jason found me because he put into the search Jewish journalist.
In OkCupid.
In OkCupid, yeah.
Seriously. Mm-hmm. Seriously.
And then he figured out who I was because he took some of the text from my dating profile, plugged it into Google, and up came articles that I had written and from my book at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, because you cannot you can't interact.
You can't not Google
with someone who's really good at research without figuring that they're going to research you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So both came out of a long-term relationship.
Yes.
And went online, where all love is made these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Before the days of ChatGPT, simply used Google to check her out.
So so for context, we met in 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time, OkCupid was really hot, and it wasn't even an app yet. We are not in the era of apps.
Right.
So
Never swiped.
No, never swiped.
No swiping.
Tinder
No
didn't
swiping.
exist. OkCupid, which I suppose is an app now, but it was like a website. It was OkCupid.com is where we met. And so
Long profiles.
yes,
Right.
long profiles, right? People were writing whole long things.
Which is really good for a journalist.
Fantastic. And fantastic for a writer and a storyteller.
Yeah.
So so that's what Jen is referencing is she had some information about her, and it just felt distinctively written in a way that I thought she has probably written about this before somewhere else and used similar language. Not like she was plagiarizing herself, but it's when you're a writer.
Totally plagiarizing
or she was
myself.
plagiarizing herself.
Yeah.
And so that's how I figured out who it was. But I was brand new to dating, and I did not know what I was doing. And I went on dates for 5 months with just anybody. That was my philosophy.
You just said yes?
Anybody, yes. I was new to New York City. I just moved to New York City. I had just broken up with this girl who I'd been with for 9 years. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anything to do with myself. OkCupid was my social life. And so I just would find someone, and my qualification was, will you meet me in person? And if they would, then I went out. And after 5 months of that, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of...
Do you know how many people you dated during that time period?
I don't. I did keep a list at some point, but it's been too long. It was a lot.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not 5-10 people. You're talking
no
50
mountains of people.
Mountains of people.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes multiple dates, an evening, and
you really embraced the New York side of you.
I loved it. I loved it. I like being out. I like meeting people. And though it was boring after a while to just have these conversations on repeat, and so that is why I decided I should find someone who I have some things in common. And I will be honest with you, here we are on this particular kind of show to this audience. I am Jewish. I don't really connect that much with it, but I figured it's at least a shared background and probably some shared reference points. And I'm a journalist, I have a journalism background. So that's why I typed Jewish journalist into OkCupid.
Journalist.
And that's where she came from.
Poof.
Yeah.
Soulmate.
Yep.
I love it. And you were there okay, yes.
Jason used a semicolon correctly, so I decided to meet him.
Yeah, that was in my opening email to her. I used a semicolon.
Tell me more.
Well, it's not easy to use a semicolon. It's pretty inside baseball as far as
it's the power move of grammar.
It is the power move of grammar.
He won you over with a semicolon.
Well, because you have so many people online that can't put a complete sentence together, sup, you up, and so like not just a sentence, but a sentence with actual grammar. At least deserved a drink.
Yeah.
At least deserved a drink.
I mean, that was literally her message back to me. The first message that I received from her after I reached out to her was, well, you used a semicolon correctly, so we should at least meet up. Like, that was basically it. And she had reached a point, which you could talk about more, but I was reaching that point too clearly, where we had discovered that going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth virtually with somebody is worthless.
Right.
We had both spent a lot of time wasting many hours with emails, and people seem great by email, and then you meet them and there's absolutely no chemistry. So it was really a question of who seems worth at least meeting in person. Like, that's the gamble that you want to take. And the semicolon did it for her.
Yeah. So I had been dating for almost 2 years by that point. And for 2 years, I had taken the same approach that Jason's talking about. So I had been just like furiously dating, sometimes multiple dates in a weekend. I'm sure sometimes multiple dates in a night.
You guys are like, I'm getting the vibe. You're the same.
I actually like to stay home and like watch TV, but
I hate
Jason
staying
doesn't.
home and watching
Jason
TV.
doesn't want to stay home at all.
We can bring this up once we move into the marriage.
Yeah,
phase
into the
of
marriage part.
conversation.
But I felt like a real sense. I mean, I feel like this is such like a stereotypical thing and like so terrible as like a feminist, but like I felt a real sense of urgency in a way that was really unhealthy. And
we were 28 when we met, just for context.
yeah.
Okay.
And so
But your biological clock was kicking in at 28.
it wasn't even about that. Like, I wasn't worried about like not having, kids were the last thing on my mind. It was really about like, I am terrified that I'm going to be alone. I'm terrified I'm going to be alone. And like, I had been in this relationship for 8 years, someone I met, my sophomore year of college, and then dated through, who I should have broken up with like multiple times. He's wonderful, but like I should have broken up with him multiple times along the way. And I was just like, I think it was just like the product of like watching too much Sex in the City. Like I was just like, and I'm a confident, like very outgoing social person. But I think it was driven in some ways, it was like driven by fear more than it was driven by
values or anything that aligned you.
Yeah, just so but actually by the time that I met Jason, I had also burnt out of all of that. And I mean, this is a whole other story, but I had gotten into this music scene in New York. I played the banjo, and I was in grad school, and I was out like until 4 a.m, like every night at Bluegrass
the
Jam.
Quiet journalist who doesn't like to leave her couch.
I know.
Was out until 4 a.m.
Yes.
Her OkCupid name was Banjo Girl.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I dated,
between that and the semicolon. Woo!
I know. And I was dating a lot of musicians. Don't date a musician. I mean, by this point, I was like, I don't care about a long-term relationship. I'm just going to date the musicians. So many Jewish bluegrass players, and in particular Jewish banjo players, which is fascinating. Why? I don't know. And so by the time I met Jason, I was like a little bit over it all, because I was just kind of like, you know what, like I'm just gonna do my thing, and I wasn't feeling that fear at that point.
So besides the semicolon, what attracted you guys to each other?
Oh, it was just grammar.
So sexy. Grammar.
Well, so I'm trying to put myself back on like what were the first impressions that I had of Jen. So there are intangibles, right? There are things like, you sit down and you just connect with someone and you have a lot to talk about, and I can't exactly explain what that is, but I things that I remember really standing out to me back then that are still incredibly important now is how comfortable Jen is engaging on any subject. Like I remember we would talk about things that that would make other people too uncomfortable, and so her willingness to engage to also I found like as the relationship progressed, if Jen is bothered by something, she just tells me. Instead of it becoming a guessing game and a festering
You don't have to
thing,
be a psychic.
I do not have to be a psychic.
That's
and that
fantastic.
mattered so much relative to the relationship that I had gotten out of where there was a lot unspoken that was really challenging, which was also my fault as well as my ex-girlfriend's. But Jen makes it easy to communicate because she will start so much of that conversation, which is incredibly valuable. We had a bunch of overlapping passions, but different directions for those passions. So, for example, music. We both really love music, but actually we have completely different musical tastes. But I started going to her banjo or like bluegrass shows, and then I would take her to my like indie rock shows. And because we both loved music and we're both curious about each other's version of that passion, we were both really excited. And writing was a really, really big thing. At the time, I was earlier in my career as a magazine editor and had aspirations to one day do the thing that I'm doing now, which is running a magazine. Jen was working on her first novel, and we found that because again, we weren't doing the same exact thing, but we had overlapping interests with complementary skills. She was able to give me good feedback on my magazine articles, and she had asked me to do an edit of her novel, which is a real test. That could have gone south.
That could have gone bad.
All
really
during
fast.
dating. This wasn't marriage.
No, this was dating.
Yeah, this was dating. Well, because I needed to
Wow.
know, it was a test of a number of things, right? Because I needed to know, it wasn't necessarily that like Jason liked the book. Like I didn't care about that so much, but I kind of had a sense, already I had a sense that like I thought you were going to give really good feedback and like really smart feedback, but also like how is he responding to this creative product that I have put out there? Like is he, because I think how he would respond to the creative product would say a lot about how he was going to be in a relationship. Because, you know, building a life together is its own kind of creative product, you know? And so, what was really cool was that he passed the test.
Flying colors.
Yes. But no, what became very clear was that he understood what my vision was and was trying to help me realize that vision instead of trying to like impose his own or to like just make a pronouncement. This is good. This is bad. I like this. I don't like this. It's what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And let's talk through how we can, if it's not reaching that place, like how can we get it there?
Yeah, that was actually a really useful. It was at once a really great professional insight, but it was also a really good as Jen says, like a really good personal insight about how someone would be in a relationship. What I came to realize, and I had never thought about that before, was my job at the time was I was a kind of a junior editor at Men's Health. So at Men's Health, my job was to understand the Men's Health voice and then take any piece of writing that was submitted by a writer and basically just beat it into being the Men's Health voice, just like change everything until it was the Men's Health voice. But I was reading Jen's novel, and my job in that was not to represent some other voice. My job was to understand her voice and her intentions and then make sure it was living up to that standard. So when something didn't work for me, it wasn't about me changing it or saying that it sucks, but rather it was about me asking her, what are you trying to do in this scene? Like, what is you have this character doing that and it doesn't quite make sense to me. So where do you want that character to go? And then let's figure out the way in which we can better achieve your vision. And that was really helpful for working with her on that. That turned out to be a really helpful insight that I've used throughout my professional career, but also it's a really great approach in relationships.
To me, this is a golden nugget of wisdom, which is let me understand you. Mm-hmm. Who are you? What do you want? How do you want to get there? What makes sense to you? Then you could figure out yourself. What do I want, right? And then together we have to say, well, great. If you want to live your life, you can get there that way. If I want to live my life, I'm going to get that way. But if we want to do this together, let's take those voices, those goals, those visions, and understand it and figure out how together we're going to be able to reach that goal. And it sounds like you did that masterfully through a book. Yeah. And then now you've done it masterfully
in marriage. And by the way, for what it's worth, that novel of hers was published. It's called
The Year of the Gadfly.
Right.
Yeah. But it's also fun. Like, I feel like we've spent like a good percentage of our marriage working on like talking through each other's creative projects. We actually wrote a book together.
What's the book?
It's called Mr. Nice Guy. It's a rom-com.
No, I think I read that one like years ago.
Ooh.
It's in my genre.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and we always talk about the nice guy who like really doesn't get a break. I don't remember. This was now a while ago, but give us a little overview.
Well, I don't know if it's kosher for the show, but it's about two journalists that every week sleep together and then review each other in a national magazine.
Like review each other's
No, I didn't read that
performance.
book. I read a different nice guy book. There must be a lot of nice guy books. I would have remembered that one.
But it was really fun. It came out on St. Martin's Press, and we sold the TV rights, and it's been a blast. It came out in 2018. But that was to Jen's point about like a lot of our relationship has been about collaborating on creative projects or just helping each other with our own creative projects. We spent years. I mean, we went after our first son turned 1. My parents took him for a few days so that we could go to Barbados and have a few days to ourselves. And we basically spent the entire trip like walking up and down the beach, workshopping this book that we were writing.
Oh my God.
It's it's like you need a project together. I think whatever that project is, for us, we literally make things for a living, so we have like projects. But I feel like every relationship needs a project.
I think for a lot of people, their project is their family.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up being the kids. It ends up being whatever is going on in life, but with the family. And I love the insight of something that exists outside of that, right? Family is family, but couplehood is very different from family. And please God, our children should get married, grow up, get out of the house. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Love you. But you as a couple have to stay strong. And by having this project or whatever this is that you can do together, it gives you this passion, this energy, creativity, understanding. I feel like you guys like walk and talk through these projects, and that is like foundational for your relationship and what you're building. It's really, really inspirational and incredible. It's phenomenal advice.
It's fun. It's really fun too. It just adds a lot of energy and fun.
Yeah.
For the joy.
You
can
can see you like each other. Like, not just that you love each other, but you actually like each other.
We do like each
right?
other.
Like right. Like kids in the picture, out of the picture, like you'd still be a great couple together. You know, a lot of couples, they outgrow the family. Like kids leave and they're like, done with you. Right? I feel like you guys are going to be like that old couple walking down the street, talking about the next book, dreaming about what's coming up.
So in my professional life, where I help leaders and entrepreneurs, one of the things that I always walk them through is this idea of developing a mission statement for yourself. And the argument that I make is that people identify, like they tie their identities too closely. This is work, but I'll tie it back to relationships in a second. They build their relationships, they build their identities too much around the output of their work or the role that they occupy, so that when something about that changes, when something about their work changes, it feels like it's shaking their identity, and that gets really scary. And so the thing that I always invite them to do is come up with a mission statement, which is a short sentence that starts with I, in which every word is carefully selected because it is not anchored to something that's easily changeable. So it's the difference between I am a magazine editor, which is an identity that's very easily changeable, right? Like in the time in which we are recording this podcast, it is possible that Entrepreneur Magazine has fired me, that there's like an email, that is just throwing me out on the street.
No.
And right, but if that happens, then that is the end of that identity. Then I'm not a magazine editor. So I tell stories in my own voice because that's entirely controllable by me. If it's not stories in a magazine, it's stories on your podcast. It's stories in any possible way. So I find that to be like a lot more stabilizing when you have an identity that has clear transferable value. The reason I'm telling you that is that I think that there needs to be a relationship version of that too. So when I think about like our relationship, and I don't have the exact words for this because I haven't.
We're
going to
do it right now.
We're
workshopping it right now live.
Yeah, but like I really don't want to define our relationship by, let's say, our kids, because our kids they're changing rapidly, and right now they're 9 and 5, and so there's still a lot of work. But I am told at some point they become less work. And
it's great. It's great. Our youngest is 11. Our oldest is 20. It's so much fun.
Oh my God, it sounds
like we
great.
have like young adults.
Yeah.
we're like friends. We're like best friends. We love them. And I mean, we've always loved them,
Right.
but we can relate to them in such a different way.
Right. That's amazing because right now we're like in the, the Jen's haranguing our 9-year-old to change his underwear this morning. Like that's where we're at. So, so if we define our relationship by the kids, then that is very destabilizing to me. And it's like it's trying to anchor yourself to something that's just like a train that's running away. So I think that we need a thing that we can understand our relationship through that transfers across change and time.
What's your thing? What's your thing? This is a moment. You can think, okay? Right? What's your thing? If you're in a relationship, you have to figure out what your thing is. What is it that you're working on together? How is it that you define your relationship? And what does that sound like in a really fabulous one-sentence soundbite that you are so good at storytelling and crafting? Take a step, play with it. Play with it, like workshop it with us.
What do you think?
I don't know. Well, because I also feel like we're very different. Like our focus has changed a lot from the time that we met, and we're even like workshopping Mr. Nice Guy. You know what I mean? Like we have a different. We kind of.
Yeah, but here's what we have that doesn't change. So what Jen is referencing is, when we met, I identified really purely as a journalist, and now I don't. Now journalism is like one of the things that I do, and I really think of myself more as an entrepreneur. And my passion is supporting and building business, which was a real which threw Jen for a loop a couple of years ago when I started to make that transition because she, when I met her, started really identifying more as a fiction writer, and now. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but like that is still a part of what you do. But you identify more as a journalist now.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and so it's like almost as she moved into the thing that I identified with, I left it. But I don't think that matters because what we originally bonded over was that we were both very professionally oriented, and our professional work relies a lot, if not entirely, upon our own ability to create creatively. That is a thing that has not changed over time. Whether or not it's Jen going from fiction to nonfiction, whether it's me going from journalism to like business creation, like in both ways, I feel like we are not moving widgets around. We are not pushing paper around. We are creators. And I think that instinct of building from ideas where things exist because we were able to marshal them into being, that is very core to us. And so I think the thing that transfers over time is a willingness to engage deeply with ideas, to be open to each other's pushback and feedback on those ideas, and to think of each other as collaborative partners.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a basic, I was going to say collaboration is really the main thing.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's a just basic curiosity about the world and like trying to understand what is happening outside of ourselves and in whatever realm it may be.
So let's take it into like your sentence form instead of I into the we.
Yeah.
I'm hearing like we create creatively and workshop life together kind of a vibe, but I'm sure there's a more articulate way of saying that, including the curiosity, like, like we're curious about life and create.
We create and collaborate on ambitious things together.
That's good.
Thank you.
Boom. Better write that down. Glad that we have it recorded. Okay. So that's it. That is your couple's mission statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You both said yeah together. I love it. Adorable. Okay. So now you have your mission statement, which is what you've always been living, but now you've identified what
it's really
it
valuable
is.
to put it into words.
Very
it really
valuable.
is. Yeah.
And now you will continue to live that, right? With or without children, with or without family, friends, life, with or without the world exploding and everything else that's going on. This is what you do together. Do you remember what you said?
If not word for word, we create and collaborate on ambitious things or ideas together. I don't know, whatever. Just rewind it 30 seconds. And you'll hear it.
Good. I was testing.
Are we gonna put it like on a plaque? Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like a really cheesy one that goes in the kitchen.
Okay, I want
Kitchen.
I want a photo of it because
Okay.
we'll throw it online and be like, right here, created here. This is what we were working on.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is at the core of what every single is looking for. They're looking for their life partner. They're looking to have somebody that they can build a relationship with, that they can get to 13 years with their 2 kids and all of the challenges and the ups and downs, but to have a mission statement and something that they don't lose. And so that at the root of it, you have a foundation. Because to me, I have no question that in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, you have no problems. Like, not that you don't have problems, right? I'm sure you have your things, but you will be able to work through them together because you know who you are, you know who the other one is. There's an understanding.
Yeah.
And there's a collaborative mission of who you are and how you operate in the world. It's not just, me and you and we work together, but there's this coming and going. I feel like you really melded yourselves together beautifully.
And I thank you. I'll add something to that, which is I think it's really important throughout a relationship to be able to see how the other person is additive. Like that's like a really important thing, right? It's because there's doing things together, but then there's also the constant awareness that this person adds something to you, so that it's not just you're attached or you're giving. Even something as simple as I write a newsletter called One Thing Better every week. To Jen's the chagrin, because sometimes I get it to her pretty late. Every week, Jen reads that newsletter before it goes out and gives me notes on it every week, and that is really valuable. Like, it's valuable for a couple reasons. It's like valuable because, well, number one, she has good edits and it just makes the newsletter better. But it's also valuable because it gives me a reason to talk to you and work with you on a thing that consumes a lot of my time and energy, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and actually, I would not read the newsletter otherwise.
Yeah.
I would I subscribe to it so that Jason can have another subscriber. But I would.
do you open it? Because if not, then I'm not getting the open rate.
Oh, I have to open it. Sorry, I'm not opening it because I've already read it.
Yeah, you're bringing down my open rate.
Sorry. Okay, I will start opening the
Thank you.
newsletter before I delete it.
Just open and delete it.
Open and delete it. No, but I because we really do have our interests, like, professionally at this point really are very different.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, this, and I don't mean it in the way it's going to sound, but
Hit
it
me.
forces me to engage
Yeah.
with the thing that you're doing, which I otherwise would not engage with. But I'm happy that I do it because I'm happy to help you. And I think it's also important, I don't know, there's something interesting with I don't know if it's the gender dynamics or the relationship dynamics, but to be able to be let me help you with this. Seriously. I mean, that I am being additive to, to that.
Yeah.
But then also just having stuff, it just gives us more other interesting things to talk about. This goes back to the collaborative idea. I could read the newsletter, but I might not be inspired to talk to him about it. But this actually gives us,
Because he needs your feedback, because he's counting on
Exactly.
you to take it up a notch, then you have to focus on it. And you care about him. It's just that you don't care about it. But now you're focused on it for the greater good. And you gave her a place. There's a concept in Judaism about at the root of love, ahava, in Hebrew is ahava. Hav means to give. And the way that we build a relationship is by giving. However, if you don't have a receiver, you can't give. So it doesn't matter. So you have opened up an opportunity and a way for her to be a giver and you to be a receiver in order to build this connection, which, like you said, otherwise he does this every week. It's something he's hyper focused on a weekly basis, and you're out of the loop. And now instead you're brought into the loop, which has, thank God, strengthened your relationship.
Yeah.
For some couples, it might not work so sweetly. I think you guys have a really ideal relationship in the way that you relate to each other and connect. And I think it's something that everybody should be striving for, because I think couples working together is one of the greatest challenges that we have, not just in our family life, but in a work life. There are couples that try to do it. My husband and I tried in the beginning. We had a business and we were both working in it, and we did different things within the business, and it was nice because we had a nice balance. And then eventually I didn't have as much interest in, the area. So he took over and he ran it, which was wonderful. And that's how I landed in a new area. And he's my number one fan. He is the most supportive. He's like, go out there, change the world, do what you need to do. I think in the same way that you support each other and believe in each other and have that curiosity, he has that support. So I know that it feels so good to have a partner like that. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Like you guys, you look like you have so much fun together.
Yeah.
We do. We have fun.
And you like each other.
Yes. To reaffirm.
Right?
Yes, it's true. Yeah, I think all of what you said there is very true. And, I think back, like, just to use the newsletter as an example, and we have like the reverse version of this too. Jen is currently working on a incredible true crime-ish podcast that she has spent literal years putting together. And she has brought me into that process. I mean, she has a team and a whole professional structure around it. But she's also asked me, hey, this section doesn't seem to be working. What do you think? And I'll sit down and I'll spend a whole bunch of time like writing out a different version of it. And then she'll take that back to her team, and some part of the DNA of what I did makes it into the podcast. And that's important because now, again, it's like I don't need to be a part of her thing, but now at least I can see it and feel it and engage with it and feel like we are in some way sharing that experience.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, so to bring it around to something like cultural.
Sure.
So, I mean, as Jason said, like he doesn't have really that connection to Judaism that I have. So we recently started this. I recently.
We is generous.
Right.
Yeah.
So I recently started this thing called Shabbat Club, where basically once a month we get friends together and we have Shabbat, and it's kind of like a rotating list of people.
Yeah. Jen sent out an email to like every family where at least one person is Jewish, right? And she said, we're starting this thing. It's called Shabbat Club. Here are the dates. There will be 2 to 3 families. We would love for you to also invite a family, and we're just going to book them up. And so every Shabbat Club is a different group of people, and it's a mess of kids running around.
Yeah. So, but here to meld these two things. So, like, okay, Jason would never. This is not anything he would ever have thought of. He's like not that interested in like the idea of it. What he does like is a dinner party, right?
Yes.
He likes to socialize. He likes to expand. He wants to expand our network. He doesn't care like whether it's.
The context doesn't matter.
The context doesn't matter,
right.
but he's in for the mission of like having like a standing, time to get together with our friends to meet new people. So he is the one who he helped me put the email together to like frame it in the right way. And then he's like totally on board, like helping me kind of, he cleans up everything. I clean.
That's our division of labor. She cooks, I clean.
He cleans up everything. But all I'm saying is that, and so like he participates. It's not like,
right.
But so we're able to find, and like, do I wish that he was like a little bit more like, yes, obviously, but it's a compromise, right? So like we're able to find like what is the overlap and how can we both participate in that thing, even if our motivations for coming to it aren't entirely matching.
Yeah, but the outcome is what we both care about. I mean, it's like a little bit different, right? Because for me, the outcome is welcoming people into our home and having a nice evening and strengthening friendships and making new ones. Like that I like. For Jen, it is all those things plus a way to connect with, all that stuff. I don't care about that stuff. But the outcome is kind of the same. And so we're able to, even on these things where we may not have fully overlapping like desires or interests, we see where there's enough in common. And also I think it goes right back to that mission statement. We are creating and collaborating.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. I love you guys. I'm giving you virtual hugs. I'll give her a real hug. But I love all of the wisdom that you've shared about how to build a happy and a healthy relationship. And it sounds like the semicolon was how it got started. But really, and maybe the semicolon, and you're the grammar one, so you'll tell me, but like it brings two things together, right? It brings this part of the sentence and this part of the sentence, and it brings them together. And that's really what you've done in your life, is brought each other together.
I will take that metaphor a step further, because what you hadn't thought about this, but like what a semicolon does, which people don't understand, is a semicolon actually connects two full sentences together. So it and like to each person, I'm going to really stretch this metaphor to the point,
I'm just
to the point of
in
death.
my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, Jen and I are writing a book together, all about the semicolon of relationships.
Yes.
I'm like in it.
By all means, you guys should collaborate afterwards. Like an individual person should be a complete sentence by themselves. There should be a I don't know, there should be a subject and an object and a verb and all that. Like it should be a complete thing. And I think what's very important to us, and what we've touched on in this conversation, is that this relationship works for us because we have complete, full understandings of ourselves as individuals and the things that we want, and we go and get those things. And yet we think that when we take the two complete sentences, they're not sentence fragments, they are complete sentences,
Right.
and we connect them together, that is when they are stronger as a unit, where it's never subtracting. We never lose a part of our identity. We never feel like we need the other person to be whole, because we don't, but the sentences are better together.
Yeah. But I just to be a little realistic, right? For your listeners, like, so why did I start Shabbat Club? Because I was feeling frustrated. I wanted to find more community based around my Jewish identity, and you were not interested in that.
Right.
And so, like, how could I do that? But to me, so much of that is about the family, right? And so how was I able to find a way to do that, to involve you, but like you weren't gonna do the thing that I like really wanted to do. So I need to create my own thing that also involves you. And so there's compromise involved in that, right? There's compromise, and like there's an acceptance and understanding that like you don't get everything you want. Jason is not coming to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah.
That was the original version. Like Jen, we moved to a new neighborhood. Turns out there's a synagogue basically down the street. She signed up for us going to the like Shabbat dinner that the synagogue hosts. I went, but I didn't like it. And I like, if it meant a lot to her, I would have kept going. But she knows I don't really want to do it.
It was perfect.
So she found a way.
We can do Shabbat dinner, but we're going to do it at our house.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a dinner party, and you get to clean up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I could talk to you guys for hours. You have to come back, or
Absolutely.
I have to come back to New York so that we can do this again. Can you tell our listeners where to find you?
So my website is byjennifermiller.com. I'm not really on social media.
Yeah, so it's just that. And I'll give you one thing, which is because we talked about my newsletter. I'll just plug that. You can know that each week it's made better because Jen read it. It is called One Thing Better each week to be more one way to be more successful and satisfied and build a career or company that you love, if that's a thing that you're interested in. And you can find that by going to the web address onethingbetter.email. Just plug that into a browser, onethingbetter.email. And if you want to get in touch with me, just reply to the email and it goes to my inbox.
Fantastic. I love you guys. You're like my new best
We
friend.
love you. Thank you for having
I want to come
us.
to your Shabbat
You are
Club.
welcome anytime.
Right.
Anytime.
Who watched Jewish matchmaking?
Right.
Yeah. I did.
Jen did. Because I don't like being at home and watching TV, but she does. And, so,
And you're already married. You don't need it. It's
right.
all good. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. And I hope to see you again soon.
Oh,
Thanks
absolutely.
for having us.